Alright.
Hey guys, Sammy here at Translate Fishing, and while we're just sitting here in a lull, we figured we'd take a minute to show you beginner guys if you're if you're wanting to get away from spinning rods and spinning reels and get into bait casters, how to use it. If you've been trying to use one and you've been getting really aggravated because every time you go to cast it, it over spools and you shoot all your line out and it bird's nests on you real bad. Or if you've kind of got that down, but when you're sitting there and you've got it unlocked and you're waiting on a fish to hit it and you forgot to engage it before you yanked back on it and then you bird's nested it really bad. So I'm just gonna kind of go over a little bit about how to use one. I'm by no means a pro at it, but I'm pretty good. Basically what you want to do. Okay, bird. Anyway, basically what you want to do is you want to get whatever it is you're using on the end of the line. If you're using a worm, if you're using a bobber with something on it, if you're using a jig like what I got on here, if you're using a swim bait, whatever it is you're using, you want to get it adjusted to where when you disengage it, it does this. You don't want it to go down super fast. You want to go down about like that. That's actually a little fast for a beginner. Let me do this. Get it. All right. Right now I've got it where it won't go down at all. Here's how I did that. This little knob right here that should be on every bait caster that you buy. This controls how fast that will go down, how fast that'll release. Now if I turn it a little bit, it'll start letting it go down. Re-engage it, bring it back up. I'm gonna tighten it down a little bit. Now see, it's just staying there. You want to get it, if you're just starting to use a bait caster, you want to get it to where when you just loosen it up, there it goes. Real slow. Maybe a little faster. Right about there. Once more. Disengage. It starts going down real slow. You're holding the rod at about a 45 degree angle. Get it up about right there, about a foot down. Disengage it. That's about the speed you want it to go down at. Look what happened. As soon as it hit the ground, it stopped. Nothing happened here. It didn't overspool. It didn't bird's nest. Didn't even start to. You want to get it in that spot to where when you release it, it goes down real slow and stops. And nothing happens here. If you've got this too loose and it goes down too fast and hits, this will unspool. It'll bird's nest on you. But if you got it like that, it won't. Now, don't worry so much about your brake. This is a magnetic braking system. Some of them have the side that you can open up, and it's got a manual braking system. You can disengage brakes or engage the brakes however you see fit. This is magnetic. I've got mine set on 7. If you're just starting out, you might want to crank yours up to about 8, 9, maybe even 10, and then loosen this just a little bit more. This will allow it to cast out further. This will allow the spool to spin a little bit faster because it's not going to have as much pressure on it. The magnetic brake, how it works is the higher you crank it up, the closer that magnet gets to the pin, and it keeps it from turning as fast. You loosen it up, it backs the magnet away so that it lets it spin faster. So if you're just starting out, you don't want to take this thing all the way down to 1 by any means. You want to keep it somewhere right around 8, 9. And if you start getting better at it, then you can start taking it down to 7, 6, 5, 4, and so on. Anyway, let's cast it a couple times and just see what happens. You want to hold it with your thumb. Now all this is going to sound really retarded to somebody that knows what they're doing with a bait caster. This is for you guys that are just starting to try to learn how to use one. Hold the line with your thumb, disengage it. Once you get it disengaged, you want to flick it. You don't want to just power it out there like you would with this big bait caster right here or with a spinning rod. You just kind of want to give it a flick and stop. Don't come all the way out to here, then release, because you're going to go over there. You want to kind of stop right about in here somewhere when you do your release, like this. I kept my thumb on it. I kept it feathered. Now, there are some guys that can dial one of these in and get it in that sweet spot to where they never even have to touch it with their thumb. They can just cast it right out there time and time again, and it's no problem at all. I haven't got there yet. Bring it back in. All right, once again, thumb down, engage it. Now when I go to cast it, I'm gonna lift my thumb up off of it just a little bit. I'm gonna leave my thumb on it enough to barely feel the spool, just barely feel it. And then I'm going to stop it with my thumb before it hits the water. Stopped it with my thumb. Now, if this was the magnetic brake, if I had it down on like 3, didn't use my thumb, as soon as it hit the water, this would keep spinning and shoot all my line out and be a big old mess. So you want to use your thumb until you master it. There's a lot of people out there who've been using a baitcaster for years, still haven't got to the point where they can just forget about their thumb. They just still use it anyway once more. Stop it with my thumb. Now here's something really important. Let's say that you've got whatever it is you're using a jig or whatever. I hooked my other line. Let's say you're using a jig and you've got it dialed in and you're casting away and everything's going great. Let's say you get snagged, you lose your jig, or nothing's biting it, and then you switch up and you want to use a different bait. If you put a new bait on there that weighs more than that or doesn't weigh as much as that, and you forget to redial this thing in, when you go to cast it, it's going to make a big old mess, and there you're going to be again. Every time you switch baits, if you're just starting out, every time you switch baits, go through the whole thing again. If you put a brand, let's say you put a rattle trap on there, whatever, if it's anything different other than what you've got on there, it's going to weigh different. It's going to weigh less or more. So when you put the new one on there, go through it again. Dial this all the way up until when you release it, it just stays there. Then as it's released, back this off until you start seeing it go down slowly. Do it a few times just to make sure. Right about there. That's a little fast. That's about good right there. Every time you change baits, do that. Stop it with your thumb. Anyways, using a bait caster is good if you really want to get way out there and you finally get it mastered where you can use one and you're not bird's nesting it all the time. You get one of these dialed in, you can launch it just way out in the water. Besides that, you can stop it wherever you want to. If you're using a spinning reel, I mean, you got some control over it, but you can't stop that thing on a dime exactly where you want to stop it. If you're pitching and flipping, or if you're casting, you're trying to get into this hole where you know a fish is or you think one is, you can do that with a bait caster. You can cast it over there, stop it right where you want it. Bring it back in, flip it, stop it right where you want it. You don't have to go through the guesswork or the trying over and over again to get it in there. Once you get it dialed in where you want to be, you can just throw and stop wherever you want to go. That's one of the main differences. Another one, these have more cranking power than a spinning reel. They always have, they always will. Most of your huge, this isn't really a huge catfish rig, but most of your big catfish rigs, your deep sea poles, most of them are going to be a bait caster. There are spinning reels that are big, they're made for big game. They still don't have the cranking power of a bait caster. The reason being is because of the way the spool's lined up. The spool's lined up straight out, just like a winch. A winch doesn't spool like this, trying to jack a car up out of a ditch or something, or a tow truck trying to bring a car up off the road. It's like this. This is how a winch works. So if it's straight out, it's gonna go further, you're gonna have more control over it, and it's going to crank harder because it's just bringing it straight onto the spool. It's not having an eye come around and spool it for you. So those are some of the advantages. Disadvantages are they're really aggravating at first. Nobody picks one of these up and just starts casting it and they just got it right off the bat. It takes a lot of work, takes a lot of patience. But once you get it down, it actually, baitcaster's probably my favorite reel now, whether it be big or small. I like spinning reels, I like closed face too, but I prefer these. The reason being is because it was challenging. It took me a while to get to where I could really use one decent, and I enjoyed mastering it. And then once I got it, I really enjoy using it. This is actually my favorite reel. It's Bass Pro Shop Mega Cast. Anyway, just wanted to show you guys who were starting out some tricks to help you get going on it, to maybe you won't have such a headache getting going on it. And if you do these things and do them every time, don't be lazy about it. Remember when you switch to redo everything, test it, and test it, make sure, then you'll have a whole lot better luck on the water with one of these. Anyway, that's all I got. Just want to help you guys out. Like and subscribe, comment below if this was helpful. You guys have a blessed day.